HB2314 is our Educational Improvement Scholarship Bill. I'm going to give you all a brief overview. It is a simplified version of the same bill that passed out of here last year. I'm going to give you a simplified version of the bill, describe how the mechanics work, and then Delegate Greason is going to talk about this bill, which has worked absolute wonders in the state of Florida. It's doing the same thing in the state of Pennsylvania. Delegate Greason is going to talk about that. And I hope my other key co-patron, Delegate HB is going to be here to talk a little bit about the need in the inner city, particularly, Mr. Chairman. But you all have a handout that the clerk has handed out, Mr. Chairman, that has the third page of which is this bubble chart right here. And I think if everybody will turn to that, we can have a good understanding of the bill. Simply, Mr. Chairman, what the bill does is it allows private corporations to make scholarship donations to private scholarship foundations. Those scholarships will be used to provide scholarships to free and reduced lunch kids so that they can go to the non-public school of their choice, Mr. Chairman. And if you look at the bubble chart, in actuality, this is not going to cost the state any money. In actuality, this is going to be revenue positive for the state. If you look at the chart, I'll give you a just brief example to see how the money flows. You can see a corporate donor can make a $100,000 donation to a scholarship organization. For that, that corporation will see a $70,000 tax credit. The difference from last year's bill, Mr. Chairman, is that corporations and individuals last year could take donations and receive a 90% tax credit. This year, the corporation is only receiving 70% tax credit. So that'll cost the state of Virginia $70,000. The bill requires that $90,000 of that $100,000 go into scholarships for free and reduced lunch families and their children only. And as you see there, I've got 4 different localities, and the maximum amount of scholarship is the state share of the local deposit index. So you can see in Richmond, the state share of each child's local deposit index is $4,978, Portsmouth $5,393, and so on and so forth. So $90,000 will be awarded to those children, saving the state that $90,000 on the right-hand side. And so the state can save $90,000 on the right-hand side of this equation, and it's going to cost $70,000 on the left-hand side. So the state's actually going to come out ahead. Last year we had to refer the bill to appropriations. The appropriations staff is absolutely comfortable with this. We don't need to refer to appropriations this year. If you look at the fiscal impact statement, you'll see that there's no fiscal impact, no budget amendment necessary. The only reason that there's not an estimate of the positive fiscal impact, and the only way this bill could end up costing money is if we didn't award the scholarships. And I think if you look at the experience in Florida, that has absolutely not been the problem. There are 34,000 kids on scholarships down in Florida. Florida's had to constantly raise the cap amount of money. There are actually 85 to 100 kids on waiting lists down there. So I don't think there's any risk that we wouldn't award the scholarships this year. So that's the overall structure of the bill. I'm going to ask Delegate Greason to talk a little bit about this exact bill, how it passed in the state of Florida, and how it's working with kids down in Florida.
Mr. Chairman, most of us don't like to hear about what other states are doing. This is Virginia. We like to do things for ourselves. But this is a great example of real life. And sometimes when we're talking about a bill, we talk about words on a piece of paper. But this is an illustration of how this program can work. And if I could, Mr. Chairman. Yes. There's an example of the history of Florida in one of the pages you were given by Delegate Massie.
Right behind the pages, you have the bubble chart on it.
And I'll quickly walk you through. You can read it yourself, but I'll start with some highlights. In 2001, when this original bill passed, it passed with overwhelming Republican support, and 1 Democrat voted for it in 2001. It certainly had a small cap compared to today at $50 million. In 2005, the cap of the program, because the program was so successful, the cap was raised to $88 million, and the scholarship amount was raised then as well. In 2008, the cap was raised again to $118 million. You can see time and time again, the Florida legislature has decided the program is successful, let's expand it. In 2010, and most importantly, we had a significant change in the legislation in Florida. Every time that the bill every time that the program got to 90% of the existing cap, it would automatically be expanded. A huge change in the Florida's approach to this bill. But more importantly, 81% of the House voted for this, which included 20 Democrats. So in 10 years, we have seen a change in Florida from 1 Democrat voting for it to 20 Democrats voting for it. At the bottom of the chart, you'll see, and most importantly to me, that Florida has been able to save $36.2 million per year by implementing this program, and 33,000 students have taken advantage of it. I think it's a great model for us, and we can present our own legislation as we're doing here today in hopes that we can have these savings and this kind of success in Virginia.
Questions on application or vote?
Mr. Chairman,
Please, Dr. Martin.
I support this measure, but I'm wondering, is the calculation that it won't cost any money due to an assumption that X percent of children would come out of public school and therefore we wouldn't have to be paying for that local reimbursement?
That's correct. No, not for the local reimbursement, but the state share
Right, the state
of
share.
the local deposit. So yeah, a child would come out of public school, go into a non-public school, therefore the state's going to save that money.
Each time. Thank you very much.
Further questions?
Mr. Chairman, to the delegates, I very much applaud you for your creativity and your vision. I think this is a great marriage of our private sector and the reality that we have a lot of philanthropy and those folks care deeply about our most economically challenged folks. So I really do applaud you for this.
Further questions? Further questions?
Can I emphasize one more thing?
Please, Dr. Massie.
I want to emphasize to all my friends, in Florida, there are 34,000 kids on this program. There's 8,500 kids waiting list. There's been some over in the Senate last year and over here saying that this is going to be a segregating bill. It's going to be a discriminatory bill. We're going to be creaming the best kids out of the public school and moving them to non-public school. And Florida's experience absolutely debunks that myth. These scholarships are going to be awarded to free and reduced lunch kids only. In Florida, 75% of the kids who receive these scholarships are minority kids. 40% of them are African American. And in fact, Florida has had studied on 3 different occasions the effect of the bill on who is going. And in fact, it's the most challenged kids that are actually going into that program. I'll read to you real quickly from a study that was done. Put my finger on it here. A study done by the Florida Department of Education by Dave Figlio of the University of Florida concluded that the program is attracting students who have significant academic problems in public schools. It noted, and I quote from the study by Dave Figlio, scholarship participants have significantly poor test performance in the year prior to starting the scholarship program than do non-participants. These differences are large in magnitude and are statistically significant, and indicate that scholarship recipients tend to be considerably more disadvantaged and lower performing upon entering the program than their non-participating counterparts. And then it goes on, that's the end of the quote. It says, this is the 3rd report authorized by the Florida Department of Education that has come to that conclusion. So, Mr. Chairman, 75% of the kids in Florida are minority kids, 40% of them are African American, and they are some of the kids that are the most deaf, but their parents are the most deaf, because that study says. So we're really helping the neediest of the needy here, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions from members of the committee? Anyone in the audience care to come forward?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Let me begin.
By the way, where are you from?
I'm from Elijah House Academy. It's a private school in the city of Richmond.
Thank you very much for being here. Yes, ma'am.
Growing up, I was a part of the foster care system. And while most children usually attend 3 schools, 1 for elementary, 1 for middle, and 1 for high school, I have already attended 6. 4 out of the 6 have been public schools. At the beginning of my 4th grade year, I moved to Tennessee, where I attended Nashville Christian Academy. That was my first private school experience. I really thrived in this environment because I was surrounded by teachers and students who encouraged me to do my best and to expect more of myself. When I saw how the students set goals for themselves, it encouraged me to do the same as well. The teachers gave me the one-on-one attention that I needed. However, because of personal circumstances, I moved back to Virginia where I attended Richmond City Public Schools. This environment was contrary to what I had been experiencing in Nashville. I lost the personal attention from the teacher because my teacher now had to deal with a huge class, behavioral issues, and wide varieties of academic abilities. I then moved to another public school where I had a better experience. At this school, the teachers cared about my success. They nominated me for programs, and my teacher went out of her way to provide me with individual work so that I could progress. At the end of my 5th grade year, it was in my interest and my mother's to move me to a local private school, Elijah House Academy. At Elijah House Academy, I have experienced many benefits due to the Christian environment and the high academic standards. The school prepares the students with the skills that they need to succeed in school and beyond. Elijah House Academy has a school-wide project called Oratoricals. Oratoricals is where each student is required to memorize a speech and perform it in front of an audience and a panel judging. I've had the experience of winning this oratorical 2 years in a row. In June, I will be finishing my 6th year at Elijah House Academy. Over the years, I have grown spiritually and academically. I have obtained a 4.0 GPA, and I currently hold the title of highest GPA in my class. I have been asked the question, if I was getting good grades before attending private school, and I am still now getting good grades, then what is the difference? Honestly, I believe that I could attend public school and be academically successful, but I would much rather attend a school where I can have a personal relationship with my teachers and my peers, and also have the attention that I need from them. Growing up in the foster care system is not always easy, but I had to help and I was given opportunities. And I believe that every student who wants to have the same great experience that I have had should be given that chance and opportunity. And I would like to thank you so much for your time, and it was my pleasure to share my story.
Young lady, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Matthew Stanley with the Virginia Council for Private Education, representing about 350 private schools across the Commonwealth. We are in full support behind Delegate Massie for this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who cares? Good. Please identify yourself, sir.
Eddie Ayler, Virginia Assembly of Independent Baptists, and also having been in private education for 35 years myself, and the school that I worked at locally would fit perfectly with this, having a 40% black population, 53% white, and the others being mixed. It would definitely benefit us in the East End, Henrico County.
Thank you. Anyone else knows? Those who would not favor this, please step forward, please.
Chairman Putney, members of the committee, my name is Meg Gruber. I am the VEA Vice President, and I am a high school science teacher of 31 years in Prince William County Public Schools. I commend the young lady who spoke before. I wish in my classroom I had the opportunity to have small class sizes. But as the General Assembly continues to cut funding for public education, our localities have no choice but to raise class size. So yes, it is very difficult for us to meet every individual need, but we certainly do as much as we can. I have the unique position being able to stand here in front of you as a former private school teacher and a former as a young student in the parochial system. I can tell you right now, my personal experiences of teaching in private school was the most frustrating experiences I ever had, because I was teaching things I had no clue what I was doing. No matter how hard I worked in it, no matter how much I looked up and read books, I was not trained to teach the subjects that I was being told I had to teach. I don't call that a quality education. When our governor spoke, he praised the fact that Virginia public schools are 4th in the nation. That's not anywhere near where Florida is. Maybe Florida does have a need for this. Virginia doesn't. I propose that when you're doing this, and we talk about the proposed cost saving to the state, you're simply going to shift more burden onto the localities. you may have, let's say in a school of 500 children, let's say you have 50 that take the voucher. You still have to have the building. You may lose maybe one teacher, maybe two, depending on how those children go out. If it's one per grade level or two per grade level, you're still going to have the teacher. You still need the bus drivers. You still need the people to work in the cafeteria. While it may save the state some ADM money, it's not going to help your localities. You're just shifting more of the burden onto them. They still have to maintain the bricks and mortar school. So unless you're going to have such an exodus that you're closing every public school in a locality because of this voucher, the state may save, but your localities won't. I think our public schools have proven that they provide very much a quality education with limited funding. Over the last several years, you have cut funding to public schools almost 15%. Now you want to look at another way to cut funding. It will cut funding to our public schools, or you're shifting the point onto the locality. As teachers who work every day and support professionals who work hard in our public schools with raising class sizes and more demands, we absolutely oppose this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was up in appropriations and had to rush down for this. I come to you, Mr. Chairman, as a former public school teacher, former member of the school board for the city of Norfolk, and also a person who supported school choice before school choice supported me. Back in 1954, May the 17th, to be exact, when Brown versus the Board of Education was handed down, ruling that separate public schools was unconstitutional. At that time, I wanted to go to the school of my choice, but I was denied that opportunity. However, if I had been granted the opportunity to have gone to the school of my choice, which would have been Holland High School rather than Nansemond County Training School, there's a good possibility that I could have received more than one course in Algebra 1 that would have allowed me, after I joined the United States Air Force in 1956, when the Air Force Academy was started in Colorado in 1958, I could have been one of the first students, probably, to have graduated from the Air Force Academy if I had had the opportunity to attend the school of my choice. Now, later on in the years, my two grandchildren, who are now 9 and 14, they have had that opportunity to attend the school of their choice. And as a result of that, they're doing well in life in the school that they're currently enrolled in Indiana. So, Mr. Chairman, if I thought for 1 minute that supporting this would in any way hurt the public school system, I would not be standing here. I think it will enhance the public school system because I think competition is good. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else know?
Mr. Chairman.
I think we had a motion. You have a comment, please?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question for the patron.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, as I understand the policy from the sheet that you provided, I know that the scholarship in a particular locality is going to be capped at the SOP funding for each of those students. So I'm looking at Richmond, and just for example, I see you've got $4,978. And I understand the intent of this is to help somebody who gets that scholarship attend a private school of their choice in Richmond. And I just did a quick look online to see what some of the tuition rates were at some of the private schools that I think people might use this for. And I'm looking, the one that popped up was the Richmond Montessori School, and I picked it at random. And for the middle school, it's just the tuition, not fees, is $12,500. So that's a big disparity between what it actually costs to go to the school and what this would provide. My concern is, you know, we give this benefit, but is it really how much of a benefit is it really if they can't come up with the rest of that money? I just wanted to get your response to that.
That's a good question, Delegate Ingram. In Virginia, these scholarships are going to average between $4,100 and $4,500 per child, depending on where you are in the state. That's the average. In Florida, they average right at $4,100. And the same dynamic you talked about exists in Florida. And they've got 34,000 kids on scholarships and 8,400 in a waiting list. So to answer your question even more directly than that, there are a number of, this is probably not going to cover the total tuition for any child. But there are a number of private schools out there, the Catholic schools, a number of that can educate children for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. And that this, in the city of Richmond, $5,000 plus something from the parents, plus something from the scholarship organization, the scholarship funds that the schools have, gets you to 34,000 kids in Florida. And, our projected, compared to the population of Virginia, Florida should get us up into the, 13,000 students. So it's going to be a combination of this scholarship, parents helping out, other sources of funding such as scholarship funds in the existing schools.
Thank you.